There we go. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to yet another coffee class. This is the first time that we're going live on Facebook too, so we'll see if that works out at
I didn't
all.
know that. What does that mean?
It just
it
means
means we're on Facebook.
It means I click the second button, just being like, what does this do? So,
So if you're on Facebook, you can pick. Oh, okay.
I suppose so. So all your friends will see it now, John.
Yeah, I don't have any friends that go on Facebook, so it's an age thing, and yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So this is Little Miss Sunshine, and John's going to kick us off.
Is this 6?
Huh?
What week are we in?
We're
6?
in.
Did you say?
Yeah, I think it's. I don't remember. I have to delete Facebook. So if anybody's on Facebook, go over to YouTube because it's not working. Bye, Facebook.
Okay, but we're all here. Adam, Alexie, me, Carl's in the background somewhere. Yeah.
Cool.
You think everybody's pretty much here? Can we?
Yeah, I think we can get going, probs. Let me see. Okay. If John, if you are ready, I will give you the floor.
I'm ready.
Okay.
It's week 7.
Oops.
Thank you, Al.
There, I pushed all the buttons and got it.
So, Little Miss Sunshine. Really a remarkable film. I love this film. One of the reasons that we're looking at this week is a number of you asked questions about an ensemble cast and what's an ensemble movie. Does it or doesn't it, or do they or don't they have protagonists? It would be very, very rare, and it's not something you want to try to do, to do an ensemble film without a central protagonist. I can't think of any examples. It has been done, but typically these films like Little Miss Sunshine that you think of as ensemble pieces, there is actually a central protagonist, and the story is threading through that character, although the minor characters also have arcs, which I'm going to talk about. And again, that's why we're watching or analyzing Little Miss Sunshine, which is really a terrific film. So here we go. One of the things I love about the film is the economy of its design, and it's such a smart film. So we meet Olive, we meet Richard, who's dad. I'll tell you right up front, Richard is the protagonist. I'll get to why we can determine he's the protagonist in just a moment. But we meet them both. And when we meet Richard, he's in a master shot and he's selling his 9-step program. And then when we cut to the reverse master shot, and there are like 7 people in the room and 1 person claps. I feel like that says a lot about Richard. He's got this product he's trying to sell, and it's not going so well. By page 2 or 3, we meet Cheryl, the mom. And again, here, look at the economy of this. We meet Cheryl, and right off the bat, she's in the car, and what's the first thing she does? She lies to Richard. She says, "No, I'm not smoking." And then she says she's at the grocery store or somewhere. Anyway, she says she's somewhere where she isn't. She doesn't say I'm in the car. So she just, so quickly, the writers are establishing these characters and also thematically what the movie is. And that's just astounding. Also, within the first 5 minutes, we meet Dwayne. And he's quick to let us know that he hates everybody and that he doesn't speak. He's taken a vow of silence. We meet Granddad. Granddad does coke. And then we meet Frank, Richard's brother-in-law, Cheryl's brother, who is just coming out of a clinic or the hospital. He's just tried to commit suicide. By page 5, we've met everybody. they are all, forgive this word, but they're all wonderfully flawed. And boom, we're right into the home, the house, the dining room, and they all sit down for dinner. Right, so in here somewhere, Dwayne says to Frank, or doesn't say it because he doesn't speak, but Dwayne writes on the notepad, "Welcome to hell." And it is hell. It is a brilliantly designed, highly dysfunctional family. In fact, they're not a family. They're so dispersed, so dysfunctional that they barely, well, I shouldn't say they barely resemble a family, because somebody out there is, well, I hope this isn't the case, but maybe somebody out there has got a family like this. Anyway, they're absurd. They're just all a mess. And again, the writers are so succinct in their writing and in their communicating all of this information in about 5 or 6 pages. I would debate that Richard's flaw is that he can't hear or see or anybody but himself. He's completely self-absorbed. All he can talk about or think about is the 9-step program, his program, and he doesn't really listen to anybody. He's on his own wavelength the whole time. That is his flaw. And by now, again, we're just, I mean, the script is moving so fast. Also, I hope you all notice this, and it's something that I want you to be cognizant of. And these are the minor beats that make a movie. And one of these minor beats is about page 6. Richard says he's waiting for a call from Stan. He's waiting for a call from Stan Grossman about his deal. Now, it's a throwaway. It appears to be a throwaway. But for the audience, they've heard Stan Grossman. They know Stan Grossman's important. And then we move right on. Dwayne, again, I hate everybody, he writes. And we learn that he has an objective. Again, he's a minor character. He has an objective. His objective, he wants to be a pilot. He wants to be a pilot. Then we and also we're still just at dinner. We find out that Frank, the reason for his suicide is that he lost the love of his life, whose name is Larry Sugarman. It's a minor beat, but we throw it in there. We throw it in about somewhere around page 14, 15. Larry Sugarman is, he won the Genius Grant that Frank had hoped he would win. And then, boom, you got a message from the pageant. I'll listens to it. And then, of course, the inciting incident, which is about page 16, is that we find out she's been accepted to the pageant. And there's that wonderful, I mean, you know, again, the filmmakers do this brilliant thing where she just starts screaming. And in case anybody missed it, you know, she's screaming. That's the inciting incident. The curious thing, and this is one of those things that again, I want you to be thoughtful about. The inciting incident typically happens to the protagonist. That's a traditional mechanism for the inciting incident. In this instance, they change it a little bit. The inciting incident actually happens to Olive, but it impacts Frank. Frank's life will never be the same. When she gets accepted into the pageant, and they've got to go to Redondo Beach and so forth and so on, his life is forever changed. But he didn't get into the pageant. So that's an interesting take on an inciting incident. It shows, you know, it illustrates that you can, if you're clever and you know what you're doing, you can be creative with any of these beats, any of these elements of story, and change them up a little bit. But again, that inciting incident, it does and it has to impact Frank, and it does. I don't think I've talked about this as much maybe as I should have, but there's a resistance to the call. Sometimes the protagonist resists the call because they go, oh my God, if I go on this journey, it's terrifying. I'm afraid to go. We see that in Jaws. Sheriff Brody, he's I don't want to chase the shark. I know I should, but I don't want to chase the shark because they know this is going to be such an adventure and they may be risking everything. So there's a resistance call. Again, I love what the writers do with this. They go quickly through a series of events, and man, they really move. I think it's Grandpa Won't Fly. Frank can't be left home alone. Cheryl, mom, cannot drive a stick. So, and then there are a couple other reasons. And finally, Richard goes, I'll drive the bus, because they have no options. They're out of options. And that's them responding to the call. And that's when he has that really ridiculous moment again with Olive. And he says, do you believe you can win? Do you have the 9 steps? You're a winner. You're not a loser. She says, yes, I can win. He says, then we're going. And they launch. And that's about page 22. So they have launched. The movie has now started. It's obviously a road movie. And they're on the road by page 22. And that's just about right on the money. That's just somewhere between page 15 and 25. 25 would be a little late, but page 22 or thereabouts, they say, okay, we're going. And then I'm going to move through the second act. There are quite a few things to talk about, but we go to the diner and Richard talks to Olive or other beauty queens. Fat. Do they eat ice cream? You know, again, we see his flaw. He doesn't hear anybody. He's insensitive to everybody. There's a wonderful, again, minor moment. He tries to call Stan. That's only the second time that Stan has been mentioned. Stan Grossman. He tries to call him and can't get him. And of course, as you know, throughout Act 2, we're looking for obstacles. So of course, the van's going to break down. The van breaks down. The mechanic finally says, listen, if you don't need first and second gear as long as you're going down a hill. So what they've done is they've made the act of getting into a car and starting the car, they've made it an obstacle every single time they get into the car or the van. And I remember seeing this film and thinking, oh my God, you know, it's just brilliant because I've never seen it done before. And so every time the car goes from stop to start, they push, and then there's this moment where everybody's trying to make it to the side of the van so they can jump in. And it creates a little anxiety, it creates a little conflict. It's a minor obstacle, but it is an obstacle. It's highly watchable, and it makes just the insignificant act of getting in a car and going somewhere, it makes it full of conflict. As we're on the road, there's more dysfunction. Richard and Frank, they don't like each other. We get further down the road. As much as I love this film, there is a moment that to me seems a little forced. There are parts of the scene that are wonderful. It's when Granddad says to Frank, can you buy me some porn? And Frank says, okay. And he goes to the gas station. And the moment that feels a little contrived is he runs into a guy who knows Larry Sugarman. And in fact, Larry Sugarman's out in the car. And this hits Frank because, oh my God, the guy I lost to is in a Jaguar convertible and I'm buying porn and in a van on our way to the beauty pageant. My life is hell. The fact that Larry Sugarman and his boyfriend happened to be at that gas station, little convenient. What they do, again, a minor beat, but we're throughout Act 2. you're creating obstacles, and they do a wonderful thing. Is they leave Olive behind, and they're in the van, they're driving, and Dwayne writes, "Where's Olive?" And they, oh my God. So when they circle back around, it's a minor beat, but again, she's got to run and jump in the van while it's moving because they can't stop. We also have found out at the gas station that Stan has said the deal's not going to work. So Richard's world is falling apart. Frank's world is falling apart. A lot of wonderful drama going on, and then there's a beat that's the first beat of the film that there's a character shows any sign of empathy. And again, I'm curious to know later what you guys thought, but I think Granddad is such an unlikely mentor, but does play the role of mentor. And he comes up into the van and he puts his arm around Richard and says, "I'm proud of you because you tried." And they have a moment where they physically embrace. It is the first moment in the film that they've touched. And again, it couldn't be more unlikely. This porn-loving, coke-snorting granddad is not typically what you would think of as a mentor. I think it's a wonderful moment. We're about halfway through Act 2. They check into the motel. Cheryl and Richard argue. Frank and Dwayne have to room together. Granddad at this motel they're in. He's mentoring. He's the mentor. He's mentoring Olive as she rehearses, and she does the growl and all that funny, and it's crazy. And again, as the mentor, he says, "You're beautiful. I love you." He is not only for Richard, but for Olive and maybe for the entire family. He's kind of the rock. He's the cement, as screwed up as he is. And that's when Richard says, "I'm going to Scottsdale," and he borrows or rents or buys a scooter. I guess he borrows it, rents it, and he drives. And that's when he has the showdown with Stan, and Stan says, "The deal is gone. Your book deal is gone. Your dream is over. It's ended. Move on." So this is a crushing blow. This is a crushing blow for Richard. Again, in such a funny film, there's so much wonderful drama. And then, of course, there's the next morning. The next morning, I'm going to spend a little time on this because it's something, I believe it's the first time I've talked about this. And it's the midpoint. What is the midpoint? The midpoint happens, obviously, in the middle of the film, or generally a little later. But what happens in the midpoint is that it's an extreme shift in the story. And a major event happens. And frankly, the first time I saw this film, I thought that Richard not getting the deal, I thought, oh, we're here, we're at the midpoint. But it's not. It's the next morning when Olive comes in to the bedroom and says to Cheryl and Richard, "Granddad won't wake up." It's extraordinary. It's such a wonderful beat. I don't mean that because Granddad dies, but it's a midpoint, extreme shift in the story, and the protagonist suffers an amazing defeat. At this point, the protagonist has to make a choice whether to go on or not, whether to give up or not. That's the midpoint. It's a game changer for the protagonist. So it's right on the money. It's about page 51. And Frank, who's had already a lot of bad news, his father dies. So what could be worse, right? And then we go to the hospital. Funny stuff with there's a burial transfer. You can't leave him here. You can't have him shipped. More obstacles. You see these obstacles they're fantastic. You got a dead body and you can't leave him here. I guess you have to take him with you. How do you know? And you can't take him with you unless you sign this release and this and that. And that's when Frank says, Frank overcoming the midpoint says, we're taking the body, and they steal the body. Interesting point here. We're now into the second part of Act 2. And what has happened is, for the first time in the film, I wonder if anybody got this. Is anybody, I wish you could respond to me, but.
They can respond.
Oh, okay, so for the first time in the film, does anybody know what happened here in terms of the stealing the body? Alexie, are you getting comments, or has anybody chimed in?
It just takes about 30 seconds for it to all come trickling in.
28 more seconds.
Okay, only 28 though. Anybody who's later than that?
Anybody got a guess? Anybody?
So wait, can you rephrase your question?
Yeah, the question is, we see a enormous shift in the behavior of these people in the film at this moment.
Brody says teamwork.
That's it. Thank you. Wow, that was fast.
And now everybody else is jumping in too.
Now everybody's saying teamwork. Yeah, so that is the first time that we're in the second act. We're second half of the second act. We're just past the midpoint, and for the first time, you could say that they actually communicate. They work together, and it's right after that, about page 55. Cheryl says, "We're family." Now, I'm later when we talk about this, I'm curious to know what people think. It's almost like Cheryl has taken over the mentorship here, but she says we're family, and again, they're highly dysfunctional, but they did rise to the occasion. So now we're moving towards the third act. We're still in the second act. They steal the body, they get going, they push the car, and they're off. But we need we need more obstacles. And again, the design is amazing. They've got to be in Redondo Beach by today. Ticking clock, 3:30. It sounds like an obvious choice, but sometimes I have writers pitch me stories, and they'll say, and they got to be in Redondo Beach by next Wednesday. And I'll say, why next Wednesday? Why is that? Well, I don't know. I'll say, why not next Tuesday? Yeah, that could be all right. I say, what about this afternoon? Oh, really? Well, yeah, this afternoon at 3:30 makes sense because it creates more conflict. So, and I think it's Cheryl. It says, we got to be there by 3:30. We got to move. So they're on the road again. Wonderful, funny beat here. Page 62. They get pulled over by a cop. They've got a dead body in the back of the van. A line I love is when Frank says to the entire gang, pretend to be normal, which is it's asking a lot from this group. Pretend to be normal. He gets out. He talks to the cop. By the way, the cop there's a funny connection here. I don't know if you. Here's another question. Does anybody know where that actor is a cop again? Where we see him again in a different in a TV series?
Him and Stan.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Alexie, good. You're right. Yeah.
I got you.
You got me. You got
everyone.
Did everybody
knows.
get it?
Oh yeah, Stephanie, Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Yeah. So there he is.
Breaking Bad.
The guy plays
Breaking
a cop
Bad,
a lot. I
Breaking
mean,
Bad.
he must have his own cop uniform. And so they say, hire him. He'll bring his own uniform. We'll save money. But anyway, so they, stranger things have happened, by the way. So he stops him. The porn falls out of the car. It's a great beat. But why is it there? It's there. Yeah. Because it's an obstacle. And then we're on the road again. So we get over that obstacle. There's a tiny minor beat, and I didn't write it down, so I don't know exactly where it happens, but it happens a little earlier when Olive has the vision chart, and she's just kind of playing with it. It's earlier, and now she brings it back out, and she asks Dwayne to play. this is just spectacular. And he plays, and that's when Frank identifies that Dwayne is colorblind. He's colorblind, which means he can't be a pilot. So his objective was to be a pilot, and now we know it's gone. He will not achieve his objective, and he freaks out. He freaks out, and one of the best things, of course, to come out of that is that he starts to speak. I think the first word he says is fuck. But anyway, he screams. He's losing his mind. They have to stop. They got to be in Redondo Beach by 3:30, but they have to stop because they've got a breakdown in the car. Mom goes and speaks to him, gets nothing. Olive goes, and Olive puts her arm around him, and then Dwayne says yes. And Dwayne, and it's not a throwaway moment. It's a moment that the director or the writers were very conscious of. When Olive and Dwayne are walking back up the hill to the van, he lifts her up. You hold that moment of helping one another, of physical communication until late second act. He helps her up. It looks like nothing, but we see that Dwayne is starting to correct his flaw. It's masterful. They get in the van and he apologizes. This is the guy that started the film with "Welcome to hell. I hate this family. I hate everyone." And at this moment, he apologizes to the family. I talked about the secondary characters and their minor arcs. His minor arc is there. He's found resolution. He's realized that maybe there's more to life than just being, and he can't go on hating this family. By the way, so it's page 72, and we hear, what time is it? It's 2:55. The obstacles at this point really, and the action really accelerates. They miss the exit. Of course they miss the exit. They've got to be there in 5 minutes. They miss the exit. That's what you want. That's what you want to do. You want that conflict. The entrance is closed. They drive through the gate. They drive through a chain. They chain link fence. They get there, and the woman that wonderful woman, that black hair, she says, "Too late. It's 3:02 or 3:04 or something," and she says, "No." I don't have an answer to this, but we'll talk about it later. I think maybe that is Frank's ultimate test. And the reason I say that is because he drops to his knee and he begs. He's begging for Olive. He's begging for Olive to be let into the pageant. He's not the same guy he was at the beginning of this film. The man at the next booth or whatever takes pity on them and says, "I'll do the form. Yes, you can go." And again, now things really start to speed up. We're about page 77. We go in the dressing room. We meet the kids who are just hysterical because they've got the hair and the spray tans and all that. And Olive is clearly out of his league. Also, there's a quick beat. Feels a little forced to me, but I'm a little too anal about all this stuff. When Frank sees an article about Larry Sugarman, and he tears it up. So this genius grant that he didn't get, he's reminded. There's a wonderful heartbeat moment on the pier, which is it's a little tricky. Frank and Dwayne stand on the pier and they talk, and we realize that they in that conversation there's some compassion and empathy. It's unusual not to have a protagonist in that moment. It plays so well. I think it plays so well that it works. I think it absolutely works. They're standing on the pier, and these two kind of misfit guys, their dreams have blown up in the last 48 hours, and yet they find a bond. But again, normally what you would do with that beat, you would have the protagonist involved, and Frank is not there. Frank's doing other stuff. He's at the pageant. By the way, there's nothing. The montage business with the contestants, it's really well done because it's just montage. It's just quick cuts of the people, the kids in the pageant doing their singing, dancing, gymnastics, aerobatics, whatever they do. We get through that quick because it's just boring. But it does one thing. It tells us a story. It tells us that Olive is out of her league. Frank doesn't want her to go. She wants to go. They leave it up to Olive. And again, we cut to when she comes out on stage. This is where we confirm. This is where we confirm Frank's resolution. He's a changed man. She gets up and starts dancing to Super Freak, and people are appalled and want her off the stage. And Frank, it's no longer all about Frank. It's about Olive. And he goes up on stage. There's a fight. He gets in a fight. Then he starts dancing with her. He's not afraid to make a fool out of himself for Olive. He's doing something for Olive. And then the reason the film works, is they all get up on stage. And at that moment, they are a family. That's why the film works. And thematically, it's about family support each other. That's what families do. It took them a while to learn that lesson, but they learned it because they all jump on stage and they work together. And then, of course, brilliantly, they run out of the place and they have to, as a family, as a group, they have to push the van to get started. And they push the van, break through the barrier, and they're on the road. And it's a little corny, but I would have to say that we think they'll be okay. I think that the audience goes, oh my God, what a misfit group of people, what a crazy dysfunctional family. And yet now there's hope. Again, I know it's a little corny, but I think I do know that it's not corny. The reason the film works is that the writers so clearly understood that you start with a dysfunctional family, you bring them together in this event where they are supportive of one another. That makes the movie. And Richard, who started out a jerk, goes to bat, goes up and fights the fight for his daughter. He's no longer selfish. He is selfless. And that is Little Miss Sunshine. So I'm curious to know how
Oh yeah. Me and Adam are gonna come back now. Ready? Ah. Oh wait, Adam's muted. Unmute.
Unmute.
Howdy. Yes.
There we go. Got you.
Okay. Yeah. So
I love this movie. I think it's fantastic.
I do too.
okay.
It also
Great.
reads great on the stage.
What?
This also reads great on the page compared to the Billy Wilder scripts, and I think it's great for the students to get their hands on a modern script.
Yeah.
Go through.
Oh, show.
For sure. Yeah. And any questions?
Oh yeah, there have been tons of great questions. Adam, have you been browsing? Here
Yes,
we
I
go.
will.
I like
Yeah.
this one real
Okay.
quick.
Here's one.
Who is the antagonist here? Is it the dad? Is his own antagonist? Is there ever even a traditional antagonist? I read that wrong, but
That's a great
message
question.
was there.
Who is the antagonist here? You know what? That's a great question, and I'm sorry to say, I want to say that Richard is his own antagonist. You might do that. I mean, this. I would say that you're right, Joshua. That there is no real traditional person trying to keep them from reaching Redondo Beach. They all kind of at different points create obstacles. And again, in an ensemble film, that's using the ensemble to the best purpose. But I don't think there's any there any definitive antagonist here, unless Richard is his own antagonist, which is completely acceptable and is done. It's a little bit unique, but it's a great way to go.
I kind of have I think that it's not completely different from your take, but I was thinking that just like a slightly different take on what his objective is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like his flaw it's related to being selfish, but I feel like it's just his obsession with winning. And I think that his objective is that Olive wins, which is kind of like what he tells her. And it's kind of unusual because it's not his thing. But like in the beginning, he's like, Olive has to win. Olive has to, all this stuff. I might be wrong. I could be completely wrong. And so I think that the first time that he goes up against that and fails because he hasn't resolved his flaw is when he goes to Olive and he says, you can't go on. Like, you're gonna lose. And so that's showing that he hasn't resolved his flaw yet. And then at this low point, she goes on stage and she's gonna humiliate herself. He's like, oh my God, everything is terrible. But then he resolves his flaw and goes on stage, which I guess would be his ultimate test. And now he's not obsessed with winning. He likes his family, which I think might mean that I feel like Olive is the mentor, since she's the one that ultimately drives him to change.
The only question I have with that, Alexie, and by the way, one thing that I hope for all of you, if you get into a great writer's room, maybe you're writing a TV series or something at some point in your career, this conversation is the conversation in the writer's room. The debate of what's going on, and the more familiar you are with story, the better and more highly respected you will be in a writer's room. So Alexie, I think it's a very valid. The only question I have with that is if his objective is to get her to win, then he would be training her in the second act.
Yeah.
And the reason I think I don't know that I'm right, but the reason that I would debate that Redondo Beach is the objective is because they make it almost impossible to get there.
I would agree with John that the objective is Redondo Beach. Sorry, but I also think that the granddad is the mentor.
Yeah,
that's what John said too. So you can't say but. Like it's gonna be like you're gonna agree with me on one thing.
I'm telling you, you know what? Now we see what it's like. Alexie, I'm glad you're not going to bring up the fact that you're the only woman in the group. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's clearly why.
That's clearly what's going on. But I'm glad you're not going to bring that up. You're not going to.
I would never bring that up, except for that is what's happening.
To be honest, Alexie, I totally wasn't tracking what you were saying because I was reading questions.
Same.
Boys against girls. Hi, Gary. Gary, you're here. Really nice to see you again. Yeah, boys against girls. That's right. Oh my God. What? It's such a good movie, but it's really important to analyze. And again, analyzing these movies, what's working, what's not, what choices they made. It enhances your abilities as a screenwriter. Yeah. What's another question?
Yeah. Look.
I'm distracted by people saying that they got my back. So.
How many people said that?
Well.
A few.
One. But.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Oh man. So there was a few great questions before, like. Why, like if they all have, one I saw recently was like, if they all have arcs and flaws and resolutions and stuff, why aren't they all protagonists?
Frank's is the arc of the story that we follow, and we don't pay as much attention. I mean, for instance, you could say that Dwayne very rapidly goes.
Richard, right? Richard.
Yes, Richard. Yeah, sorry. And you would say that Dwayne goes from hating the family to loving the family, but there's not much in between. He's not. You couldn't really. You could write a movie for him. You could certainly write a movie for him, but Richard is in command of the story. It's Richard that we're following, and when you break a movie like this, you would want to break Richard's arc first, and then Dwayne. You know, I hate people. I hate the family. I'm living in hell. And then he speaks, and then he's on Olive's side, and then he gets up and dances. So there's not enough weight in his story to carry the entire movie. It's Richard who's active. It's Richard who says, "We're going to Redondo Beach." He's the one who. Hi.
I like this question. I said that very definitively.
Yeah. I like this question, and you won't disagree with me. Okay.
No, you won't disagree because I like it. So, can you talk about Richard's objective being Redondo Beach and Richard wanting the book deal?
Oh, I know this woman. She
made the cover.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for doing that. The collage of the characters, fantastic. Thank you. That's great. Now wait. Oh
no, I took it down. Okay.
Oh yeah. Can you talk about Richard's objective being Redondo Beach? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Is it Redondo? Is the objective Redondo Beach or book deal?
Oh, I think it's just how can you reconcile those? Like he wants two things, and my thought would be, isn't that kind of distracting? You know, if he's actively pursuing two objectives to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first act, at the end of the first act, we have to go to Redondo Beach. We've got to be there, by 3:30 Sunday. So they have actually qualified and committed to the objective. His B story, the book deal, has many fewer beats, and he's not really in pursuit. I mean, he's crushed by the fact he doesn't get it. But I think there are only 4 or 5 Stan Grossman points in the movie. They're really well done, but it's get to Redondo Beach, and I know I probably have said this before. I'll say it a lot. You will do yourself an enormous favor if when creating an objective, if you make it tangible, because objectives have a way. It's one of the hardest things for a writer to do, and they have a way of getting away from you. So what Alexie, not to pick on Alexie again, but what Alexie was saying, here I go, but I'm going to pick on Alexie again. When Alexie was saying that his objective, I'm not going to let it go, his objective was to get Olive to win, then he would have been training her. If his objective was to get the book deal, he would have been more passionate about that, and he wouldn't have gone on this journey. So when he commits to going on the journey is the objective, and Redondo Beach is tangible, which is, I hope that makes sense.
I think that it just seems to me that ends too soon, because they get there. They get there. And
yeah.
Well, I feel like they get there before the third act break, because then he hasn't overcome his. I guess if he's begging and that's him overcoming his flaw, then I guess I could see it that way. I just feel like he overcomes it when he goes on stage. I guess that's my. I'll stop.
No, it's valid. It's
I also think that sometimes
I don't have all the answers, but it's
sometimes you can have the story keep on going after that character completes their arc, especially in ensemble films, because it's rapid fire, in a short amount of time. If it was one protagonist, it might feel weird for them. Well, they solved their big thing about 5 minutes ago, and why is this film still going? Because the film's about the whole family. The film is over when the family fully is together.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's about meeting the inner need, right?
It's a great question. Can we say the van is?
Can we say the van is the antagonist?
Can I say my opinion? I think Richard takes on the role of the antagonist far more than the other characters.
The van is the van creates wonderful obstacles. I don't know, maybe you could, but I just want to say that typically young writers have real difficulty in creating obstacles and making sure that they happen. And this film does it so well. About every 8 pages, something happens, generally, as this young man just said, with the van. And you typically you're going to have trouble creating those obstacles, but that's where the movie is. That's where the conflict is. It's in the obstacles, and the van serves them well. By the way, I forgot to mention this just real quickly. The horn is magnificent because it just creates more angst, more conflict. The damn horn won't quit beeping. It's minor, but it's conflict.
Were you pointing out the van?
Yep.
Oh, never mind. I had a guess about what comment you were going to pull, but go ahead.
And just to piggyback on what John was talking about, the importance of giving a tangible objective for your characters to create like a plot that has momentum and energy. I think the reason you want tangible objective is to create problems for the characters that are real to them. And if you have tangible objectives, the characters have to react to survive and get what they want in life and their goal. You can have like philosophical problems. You can have tangible, real problems like, oh my God, there's $100,000 in my car of drug money, and the cops are after me, and I think my girlfriend planted it. Like in that scenario, you can have multiple levels of problems: interpersonal, extrapersonal, and like, psychological. But it all comes from physical objectives and things that get in the way of that. And I think a lot of beginning writers, like you said, John, have trouble dealing with that. Like, or Alexie talks about like the coffee shop scene where the characters are just talking and all their problems are like interpersonal. There's something to be said about like, you could need to get to Redondo Beach, and the van is an obstacle, I would argue.
Oh, it's a great obstacle, and it stays true. But yes, the obstacles are, you could think of them as you're creating a series of tests for the protagonist, and will he or she overcome these tests? And they're all building to the ultimate test.
Dream Yogi says that I think the van is the mentor.
That was the one I thought you were going to pull.
Dream Yogi.
Saw it in your eyes.
Yogi. Nice to see you here. The van. The van. The van is the mentor, but it would have to be gently helping them. And I think, as far as I can tell, the van only hinders.
Well, but it makes them come together, in a way, because they all have to push the van together to teamwork. I'm just going down this path and seeing where it ends up.
And by the way, that's what you do. Get on something that's really important. You go down these paths, and maybe they don't lead anywhere, but as you're designing your story, you're saying, what if I made the dead wife the mentor, and she's not in the movie, but he's talking to her? What if I made the van the mentor? Yes, perhaps, but you want to explore all those things. I mean, that's where the creativity comes. At some point in this movie, they said the inciting incident is going to happen to Olive, but it must set Frank in motion, and so that's a slightly unique choice on inciting incident, as I said. But when you start to explore these different ideas and choices and elements of story, you come up with creative, wonderful creative ideas.
And I actually think the T.S. Eliot has a concept called the objective correlative, which is like an image or recurring theme or thematic image or thing in a story that has deep story resonance to the characters and the tone of or poetic meaning. And I think the van in this case actually is that, because it means so many different things to the family and the family's journey and what they accomplish. Like I think it does multiple lifting as an obstacle, as a symbol for the family coming together.
Yeah, I think so.
You're getting talked into it, Adam.
It's a mentor. I don't know.
Oh man, there was some. Did you see another question you wanted to pull, Adam?
Yeah. Kari has one that I think actually a lot of people have been talking about is that we have one protagonist, but in an ensemble, everyone must have an arc and resolve them. I assume this is plotted out in the beat sheet to track them all. And just to piggyback on this, John, John, a lot of people have been asking about ensemble movies. Like somebody asked about Love Actually, and like what you would think about a film like that.
I haven't seen that in a while, but let me, Carrie, good question. So, yes. Well, when we do writing the script, I'm going to do a whole thing on the beat sheet. So, Carrie, when the subtlety and the nuance that you find in any great film, the audience, when you're sitting in a movie theater, the audience doesn't see it. I mentioned this last week, but in Up, it's the grape bottle cap, and you can only find that in a beat sheet because it's so subtle. Again, just look at for instance, Dwayne. The beats are very subtle. His ultimate test is he's colorblind, and he will not get his objective. But where do you have that happen on the spectrum of your film? Where are those beats? I'm going to go off on a tangent here a little bit. Did I, Alexie or Adam, have I talked about carding a movie?
No, you have not.
Okay.
Can we put you on? Can we put you solo? Let's do it. There you go.
No. Yeah. Well, I don't care. So one of the things you can do, Carrie, and again, this helps you find that nuance, those minor beats that you have to have. Again, when Olive has the eye chart, we show it once. The second time we show it is when we find out that Dwayne's colorblind. If you don't show it once before that, it seemingly comes out of nowhere, and the audience will bridle at that. So you find that in the beat sheet. Carding a film means that you take index cards, just literally index cards, and you write every scene in the movie on those index cards and put them out on a big table, on the floor, wherever you want, but put them out, and then you begin to move them around and say, okay, so Dwayne, when do I need for Dwayne to actually speak? When do we need Dwayne to have his ultimate test? And is this too late? And when you see your movie spread out on these index cards, each scene is a movie, and you can move them around and find out how they best fit. That's how you find the nuance and subtlety of for instance, when they're in the hotel room that night, and Frank and Cheryl are fighting, and then we cut, and Olive and Granddad are in their hotel room, and she growls. He says, "That's a great growl," whatever he says. If you see that you would put that on a card, the growl, because the growl will play in the third act when she's actually on stage. But you need both beats, and you find those. Again, carding is a great way to do it.
Something that I find helpful with carding, I think I included this in writing the short. I think I might have tossed it in there. But to write on the bottom of the cards why it's there, like what it establishes. Because if you're making all these scenes, eventually you're going to forget why did I think that it was so important that she go do this? But if you have on there what it establishes, then even if you decide the scene needs to go, you know that you have to establish it somewhere else.
That's so right. I mean, what happens in the scene? What must happen in this scene? The only thing that had to happen, there are a couple of things that happened in that scene, just to belabor that point for a second, is that she has to growl. Mm-hmm. he has to say, "I love you. You're the most beautiful girl in the world." Then he needs to go to the bathroom and do coke.
Yeah, and you could do that anywhere.
Because he's got to die.
Yeah.
So there are three things that have to happen in that scene: growl, "I love you," coke, death. Why are you laughing? That's true.
It's a tough world out there.
It's a tough world, yeah.
Isn't that a proverb?
Yeah.
I think it's
One of the proverbs.
It's a proverb.
So Theo has a question. Theo's a question. Is this similar to Chekhov's gun concept, carding?
Yes, exactly. It's the gun concept. It's if you, hi Theo, if you show a gun in the first act, you shoot it in the third. Yeah, absolutely.
I would say carding is like a tool to set up Chekhov guns.
Yes.
Yeah. Where do you show the gun?
Although in Thelma and Louise, sorry.
Yeah, that's another disagree. Anyway, there's a wonderful in the opening of Inglourious Bastards. The Nazi comes in. Very few people do this as well as Tarantino and also Hitchcock. They pull the tension. So if you guys know the opening scene in Inglourious Bastards, the Nazis come in and he goes in, the lieutenant, I guess, and he smokes his pipe and he drinks a glass of milk. And we're willing to watch him do that because Jews are hiding under the floor. And so the tension of that moment is brilliant, and you can keep pulling on it, which is what Tarantino does. He literally, forgive the pun, he milks it.
Oh my God.
I know. I think we should go now. I think that's it for today. But anyway, I don't know if that made sense. I'll stop. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
It did make
just
sense.
to piggyback on that, Hitchcock has another great saying regarding suspense is that you should film every murder scene like a love scene and every love scene like a murder scene.
I didn't know that.
It's it's catchy. I don't know how useful that is, but it sounds good.
I feel like it's right, but I couldn't tell you why now.
And I think it comes down to audiences tend to accept things that they aren't expecting, and even if it's a beat that is like has to happen in the terms of the story, how you execute something can like throw off the rhythm of how a beat is perceived. Like, for example, you have to have the Nazis come and get the Jewish girls underneath the floorboard. If they just came in and got it, it wouldn't. That's
without
kind of
people without the girls under the floorboard. You can't watch that scene. The guy drinking milk. Yeah,
right. It's like the put the bomb under the table. If the bomb just blew up and we didn't know it was under the table, it would just be like a one surprise. Whereas if we showed it was under the table while the conversation is happening, you have suspense.
That's right. And the timing of that and the organizational, going back to the cards, how you organize those beats, where you lay them in is just that's how the designing of that is how you make it work or it doesn't work. But show the gun, fire the gun. More questions? How are we doing time wise? We doing okay?
We're doing fine.
Okay.
I thought that there was some cool questions about carding.
Dream Yogi has, I've heard about 50 to 70 cards are necessary to come up with a feature. But if you use the index card view in Screenwriting app, your feature ends up being 100 cards.
I think that's because it basically makes all your scene headings into a card.
Right.
Okay. So a funny thing happened. I always carded all my movies, all my scripts, and sounds funny, but no, because I'm just, I'm so old. I wrote a lot of scripts. And I had them in rubber bands wrapped around them and in stacks in my office. And one day this is a true story. One day I thought, I was getting ready to write to start a script. And I thought, I wonder how many cards there are in a movie. I mean, I had some vague idea, and I took 3 or 4 stacks of these cards. and they all came out 52 or 54 cards. It's bizarre. So it makes perfect sense. The average scene is about 2.5 pages long. If you do the math, that's a script. 100 cards, by the way, they're probably counting, I don't know how that works, but they're probably counting bridge scenes. So in other words, the scene, interior den, John Warren gets up, walks out, cut to exterior street, he leaves building. So they would make, that nothing happens in that scene. They would count it as 2 scenes, you know, but nothing happens. So those are bridge scenes just to get us from one place to another. But you should think ballpark. And by the way, 70, I think you were suggesting, or said maybe that's the case. 70 is long, man. That is long.
Well, to you know, throw in my 2 cents, as I never have done.
4 cents at this point. All right.
Just the whole $2. When I do carding, I overdo it. Like, I get really nitpicky about exactly what I want. So, like, for example, when you were saying, like, in this scene, you would say, Growl, I love you, Coke. Growl, I love you, Coke, right? I would probably end up doing a separate card for each, even if it was in the same scene, because then I can move it. So then if I cut the scene, I can say, okay, well, I can put Growl here, I can put I love you here, and then Coke there. So I overdo it, but I have to remember that they don't actually represent scenes so much as they represent, like,
they're beats, right?
Yeah, kind of beats, but they're a little bit, there's like mini beats too, because otherwise it would have way too many beats.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, all we're trying to do here is say, here are tools. Here's an analytical approach to this, and you'll find your own way, your own method, and hopefully this helps. But yeah, we all find our own approach to writing.
I like this question, which is kind of getting into it, what we were saying. Kind of off topic, and you don't have to answer, but have any of you dealt with self-doubt, and how do you overcome it?
I would say for me, when I started writing for the first time and I wrote my first 9 scripts or so, you know, since 10 years ago, of, you know, that, you know, there was a period of time where I was just writing all the time and I hated everything I was writing. It was super stale. And it was because I didn't really get what story was until my 4th script. But once I realized that you can always make something better if you step back and think about it and you understand and you ask good questions. But once I realized that when you learn what the right questions are to ask, you can always make something better. That's kind of how I overcame it. And I don't know, for me, what about you guys?
Knowing the right questions to ask and asking them is key, because what you'll find, Adam, I think we're on the same page here. You'll find that you've got a plot point, you've got a problem with a script, and either you sit and wrestle with it and fix it, or you move on to something that's working pretty well. And then you think, when I come back to that tomorrow, maybe that problem will have fixed itself overnight, you know, on final draft. Final draft doesn't have that mechanism. It won't fix itself. You always have to go back. But asking the right questions, and I have students all the time who say, when I actually have students who will say, I'll point out something that's not working, and they'll say, I thought you might miss that. Wait a minute, did you know it was wrong? Yeah, I kind of did. Well, what the hell are we doing here? What? So I just thought, I thought, oh, I bet Mr. Warren will get this. Well, yeah, I got it, and we still have to fix it. So, but yes, asking the right questions is really important. And in terms of self-doubt, I'm mildly embarrassed to say, unqualified. When I started out, just unqualified. I want to say confidence, but it probably was arrogance, and there was nothing to found it on. But I was just so enthusiastic that it actually served me well. I'm sure I was obnoxious as hell, but is anybody applauding Alexie when I said that?
Honestly, I think
just
some of the most successful people I know are incredibly arrogant, and that's just I don't know why.
I knew I wasn't going to be stopped. I mean, I know that sounds, that was really obnoxious, wasn't it? Was that obnoxious?
No, I get your meaning though. You were
But I
like,
just had to do it.
Yeah.
I just had to do it.
yeah.
And so, and I was willing to put in the work, but at some point I'll tell this story about the first pitch I sold, which was really, anyway.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you.
What are you gonna ask? You were giving like
I'm not sure. I know you pretty well, but I'm not sure that. Do you have any self-doubt?
No, because of all the medicine I take. No. Yeah, I mean, I'd never taken a writing. I think specifically about going to NYU, and I was in Kentucky. I'd never taken a real class. We didn't have like creative writing was just everyone sits there and does their own thing, and then that's it. And so when I came to NYU, I felt like I was going to be the idiot from Kentucky who didn't know anything. But, I thrive on the approval of others. So when you sent me that email, you sent me an email saying that my script was good and you wanted to talk to me. And I cried.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Do people know that you were in my class when you were a freshman?
I was in your class as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, but I was also in it.
I mean, and I was thrilled to have you, but wait a minute. Okay. Really? I didn't know that. You never told me that before.
Yeah. Well, now everyone knows. Yeah.
I know the script, I know exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about because I remember thinking that this young writer, correct me if I'm wrong, but stop me if I've told this before, but you said to me, Mr. Warren, I'm not sure I did this right.
Yeah.
And I said, what is it? And you said, I've written this short script for class for storytelling strategies, and I didn't use dialogue. And I thought, oh my God, this poor kid, what has she stumbled into? Because it's impossible to pull that off. You'd have to be so talented. And I said, let's not read the script in class, because I thought she's going to get annihilated. They're going to hate it. And so I said, I'll read it and I'll get back to you. And that weekend, I thought, I got to read that poor girl's script, that poor girl from Kentucky. No, I'm kidding.
No, and you did know I was from Kentucky because you said that you had a cousin who went to my high school.
Yeah. And I read it and I was like, oh my God, she pulled it off. And I was just shocked. And then, and I'm going to embarrass you, and so then I said, Alexie, I don't know what I said in the email. I don't remember writing an email, but obviously I thought it was amazing, and I said it's amazing. So then that next week in class, I said, and now we're going to read Alexie's script, and I had somebody else read it so you could listen. And they read the script. It was 10 pages long, right? So about that.
Mm-hmm.
They read the script, and true story, when that reader said, the end, the entire class started applauding. It was amazing because it was so subtle that I thought they might not get it. And I was really worried that they were going to go, what the hell was that? But fade out, the end, and everybody's went.
Man.
You had the goods.
Yeah, and you sent me that email and I cried in my dorm room. I've made other students cry. No, that's not true. It's not true. For different reasons.
Reasons. That is the first thing I really believe from you, John. We got a few questions accumulated.
Yeah. Sorry.
Theo asks, I would love to hear your thoughts on 5-act narrative structure outlining versus 3-act. If there are pros and cons, or I have a quick opinion. I think 5-act is great for television, for the hour drama. I think that's my experience with it. It's how Breaking Bad was done. It's how X-Files is done. It's how a lot of shows are broken. That's my experience with it. I've never really done a movie with 5 acts. What do you guys think?
Yeah, 5-act is sometimes attributed, rightfully so, to Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote a 5-act structure with a lot of plays. I think I mentioned this once before, but there are two things. First of all, in a feature script, you've got a definitive page count. You got to come in at about 120 pages. Also, just the conversations you have in the film business with producers, directors, managers, agents, studio heads, studio executives, they all talk 3-act. It's part of the it's part of the way that story is discussed in the movie business. There is certainly a very valid reason, and as Adam said, certainly in TV they play more with 5 acts. But in feature film, you can do 5 act. By the way, if I did 5 act and then went into the studio to talk about the script, I would talk about it in 3 acts, so not to confuse them.
Yep, that was my main thought too, is that every meeting I've been in, if they know structure, then they know 3-act structure.
It's a big if, but yeah. But
I also feel like it kind of looks, sorry, I feel like the end result looks kind of similar, unless I'm completely missing something.
No, it does. It does.
Okay.
No, it's more, I think it's more of just a process.
Okay.
I think carding 5 acts for an hour drama is just, it's easier to get your head around the commercial breaks. And it's easier to like build to a crescendo, because if you think of every act is 4 to 5 scene cards, you know, and you're putting on a board, it's easy to think in terms of like, I have 5 columns of scene cards and it's an hour or 50 minutes of television.
Huh.
That's how Breaking Bad was done anyway. Vince Gilligan has some great specials where he goes super in depth how they broke every episode of the series. And before that, obviously, like any great television show, like nobody writes anything until it's all, you know, blocked out. And all the writers in the room would go with note cards with their 5 acts, and they'd make everything. I'll share that with you guys. It's really good.
Yeah, no, and I love the idea of what you just said. You just briefly touched on it, but nobody writes anything until it's carded or until the beat sheet's done. And it's difficult for me. It's difficult for everybody, because you think, oh, I've been doing this outline for weeks and I want to start writing. The beat sheet is the writing. The cards are the writing. It may feel more satisfying and more productive to start writing scenes. If you don't know why those scenes are in the movie or the design of the movie, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, because you have to think, rather than playwriting, cinema and screenwriting, it's all about event is the unit of story, right? As opposed to playwriting is dialogue is the unit of story. Right. You know, and if you're writing events, you have to figure out what those are. You have to be clever. You can't write until you know what the events are. And I mean, you can, but
it goes back to something we were talking about earlier, is that if you just start writing, how do you find those tiny little beats? You know, it's a very, Elmore Leonard's the only person I've ever heard of. Well, not the only, but Elmore Leonard could just he was so deep in story that he could find the minutia, the tiny event as he was writing, but he was a master.
Good.
Oh, Adam, did I cut you off?
No. For me, the difference between a beat sheet and carding is beat sheet is about finding like the emotional arcs of the film. Carding is about executing that on a more detailed level. That's for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, the good thing about carding, particularly for a young writer, is that, and also, I guess, if you're a visual thinker, is that you can see the movie in front of you, and you can say, "Oh, this event." For instance, you might have 30 beats before you get to Olive screaming. So you go, oh my God, I've got 30 cards before she screams. That's going to put the inciting incident too late. And you can move the cards around. It's just really a physical thing. A beat sheet is just not as mobile and arguably not as visual. I highly recommend carding. When we do writing the feature, I'll go in depth into carding, and most TV shows, they're doing cards on a board. Yeah.
Me and Adam have some fun carding, outlining stuff tips that we want to share in there too.
Right.
Okay.
I see a question from Danielle.
Awesome.
Where does an outline come in? I think this is outlining. Like, it's a different form of it. Like,
Hi, Danielle.
yeah. What do you guys think?
It comes in right at the beginning.
Well, I think it means like in relation to beat sheets and carding. Where does an outline fit?
For me, the outline is kind of the same thing as a beat sheet. Only the beat sheet, and the reason I stress beat sheet is that it's more refined and more detailed. In a beat sheet, it's just what must happen in this scene. What is the information that must be conveyed in the scene? Yep. Olive has to growl. Granddad has to say, "I love you." Granddad has to. So that would be in the beat sheet, and it's a very refined. And when it's done, when the beat sheet is done, it should be every single beat in the movie. So then when the beat sheet's done and you're ready to go to script, then when this is from Hemingway, you leave off the night before knowing what you're going to write in the morning. So if you know why that scene's in the movie and you stop work at 6 o'clock, you know that tomorrow morning you're going to start on the next scene, and you know why that scene must be in the movie because the beat sheet is your roadmap.
I think that one time I've kind of played with the relationship between my beat sheet and my carding and my outline. And so this is just my experience with it. But normally what I do is I start with like basically like the one pager where I'm just like literally protagonist, antagonist, flaw, blah, 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 blah. And like exactly what is in the course. That is what I do. And then after that, I try to like just make a bunch of lists of things in the second act. Then note cards. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll go through the entire script and do slug lines and write in what I know and skip the rest. So if I'm like, I know that I want him to say like, you suck in this one scene, I'll go ahead and put in, you suck, and then just keep going. Just do what I know and get it in there and then go back through. But
I've kind of a similar process, but I have an extra step that I think actually kind of is an outline. I write an outline before I do a beat sheet. I write an unstructured outline, but I do a series of it. I do a thing, I've talked to Alexie about this, just a weird thing I do that I would recommend to people try. As an idea generation process, once I kind of know what the story is about, in a vague sense, I write in complete sequence in pen without any alteration.
Pen is important. So important.
Yes, pen is important. Every single thing that happens in the story. I just think about it, like just like totally free write, no structure, don't worry about anything. And then when I'm done, I do it again on another piece of paper. And the second time I've like had gotten some new ideas. I write in the margins like, oh, wouldn't this be a good idea? Oh, wouldn't this be just the whole idea is just sort of be like, I kind of have a vague notion. How would this story look like in a pure form? And basically in a session, I'd spend an hour and I'd do an outline from scratch about 5 times in a row. And by the end of that, I kind of am ready to write a beat sheet.
But it keeps getting deeper every pass, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing is you start off with a couple beats. I was thinking of a script I wrote, that was based on a New York Times article, and it's just when I read the article, I knew the inciting incident, but that's all. So now on that piece of paper with a pen, okay, but who is the protagonist? Okay, now and then you just. Do we have time for a couple more? How are we doing time-wise?
Yeah.
I see one. Kari asks, so you can use cards on the beat sheet on final draft. Do you have physical cards? I personally think physical cards are great. I hate final draft cards. I hate them.
I hate it because you can't see it all.
Yeah, physical cards are great. You move them around. Yeah.
Also, just the act of physically writing.
Yeah. Also, because it makes your hand tired, you keep it succinct.
Let's just expound on that for 1 second. Every year, the animation department at NYU, they invite me down for their pitch series. And it's a relatively small department. I think maybe there are only 10 students in there. And they pitch their short film, their short animated film. And what they've done, Adam, you just remind me of that, is writing down the scene. What they've done is they've drawn a frame for each scene in the movie. So what happens is, and I said to John Canemaker, who is the head of the animation department, a wonderful guy, great teacher, and they invite me, I'm very flattered, they invite me down and they pitch the stories to me and they put them up on a board and again with an animation, a drawn piece, a scene for every movie, every scene in the film.
The storyboard, right?
It's like, it is a storyboard. Yeah, thank you. Yes, storyboard. So what happens is, if you take the time to draw a scene, you damn well know why it's in that movie. And it's that effort, that extra effort. If I'm going to draw it, it better mean something. And it took me a while to realize that these stories that the animation department was pitching, the animation students were pitching to me, were so good because they had thought through every detail. They had thought through every detail because they had to draw every damn scene. And you're not going to sit there and draw, I don't know how long it takes to draw a scene, but you're not going to sit there and draw a scene if it really doesn't matter. And it's that attention and discipline to story detail that makes, and by the way, you see it in Pixar, you if I got to sit there and draw it, it better mean something.
Just a side note that I think I just want to bring up, John, because I think you'd appreciate this. Are you guys familiar with Studio Ghibli?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like Spirited Away.
Yes.
Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes.
Oscar-winning John Lasseter, championed their work in the 90s, inspired Pixar, all of the great work. They don't storyboard or have a script. They animate and improvise the film. Isn't that insane?
It's insane,
and it's amazing.
How much time do they lose? Like, have they ever said how much stuff they make that doesn't end up in the film?
Apparently, very little is missed.
Well, because
the intensity is like, what was that, John?
Well, I think it's because they have to give reason and purpose for everything they're doing. Yeah.
Right, but it's just crazy to me that those films are. It's a weird thing. Nobody should do that, but I just think it's a fun fact. Like,
it is amazing. Yeah. You got to know your stuff to pull that off.
That's wild.
Considering how good they are,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're amazing.
Oh.
Man. Oh, man.
We should break one of those. They're actually great stories.
Spirited Away.
Spirited Away is great.
Fantastic story.
That would be a really fun one. I've never found that script, but I don't think I've looked.
There is no script.
Oh, right. You just said that. My God.
Yeah, don't try this at home.
No storyboard either. That's what's crazy.
Don't try it at home. Yeah.
Man, I wonder if we could break it. I wonder if it would work.
I'll look.
It does work, actually. I've done it.
Yeah.
You've done it?
Well, here's the thing. There are some non sequiturs, but they're thematically relevant. And like the protagonist is always clear. It's always about this girl trying to save her parents. She has a very specific objective the whole way through.
All their movies are that?
Oh no, just Spirited Away. Spirited Away.
Well, we
Princess
all have the one
thing. Too.
Yeah, we all have one thing. Don't we?
Huh?
Have you guys seen Princess Mononoke?
No,
I watched it at NYU.
Oh, John, you have to see this movie. It's amazing.
I've heard. Okay, I will. I'm writing.
It's really good.
I thought that you taught that class where I watched it. No, it was Nick Tanis.
Oh.
Anyway, enough fanboying.
So let's do one more question.
Let's do it.
Alexie, do you see one?
Oh, someone said we have to watch My Friend Totoro.
I see a side note that this guy, Roasted Bear Bite said, Mad Max Fury Road script is 500 pages and full of illustrations.
Yeah, well,
And that's
It's pretty cool. I like looking at those, but it's
no,
like one of
brilliant.
those things
But also,
where
and I'm
yeah.
blanking on what's his name,
George Miller.
George Miller. George Miller owns the genre. George Miller is Mad Max. I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, so is it a 400-page script? I didn't know that, but
well, it wasn't a script. He only wrote. He had a storyboard, and then he was forced to write a script because the studio was like, "We're not going to give you $100 million if you don't have."
Yeah, guess what? They're not going to. But by the way, Fury Road is brilliant, and in terms of, I mean, come on, it's just masterfully done.
It's really good.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's just
what?
It's brilliant.
Oh, you would love it. It's a feminist Mad Max story.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
The story structure is perfect.
It is the best. It is the best action movie I've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah. No.
Well, you all are making a good case for us to do it here.
Yeah.
But
okay.
sorry, I just
That's okay. No, I didn't know that, and I love that film. I love that film.
Do you guys want to know something funny? George Miller wrote the screenplay Babe.
The pig?
And then he wrote and directed Happy Feet about the penguins.
He is a versatile man.
He wrote and directed Happy Feet. He reinvented himself in the 90s as a family screenwriter after he couldn't get a job after Mad Max was over.
Wow, I didn't know that. Those
are
Australian
Babe too.
He's Australian,
Babe
right?
The City. Yeah, Australian.
Mad Max, when it came out, I don't know if it holds up, but Mad Max was.
Mad Max 2 is the good one.
Fury Road?
No, Fury Road is Mad Max 4. Okay, Mad Max Fury Road is the best one in the series.
Well, that's the one I should watch.
Yeah.
It's the one
Thunderdome is not so good, right? Yeah. Okay. This was fun.
It was.
Is everybody good? How's our comment?
Everyone's here.
Okay.
If we
Last
didn't get last one.
Yeah.
Adam.
Oh,
now you know how I feel.
Sorry.
Scramble frantically.
I see. The last question was how many sentences should be in a scene on an outline, and I would say it depends.
How many sentences should be in a scene or an outline? Okay.
Kind of a vague question.
I wonder if K-turn. I wonder if you're talking about how many sentences in a descriptive passage. Is that what you're?
I think he's just talking about the outline, which.
Well, again, this goes back to everybody takes it. Everybody does it a different way. I keep it as lean, just bullet points, because I want to know what must happen in this scene. Do that and get out. And if you keep it, for me, if I keep it that clean and that concise, then again, when I start in the morning, I know what the scene is, what has to happen, and it doesn't get muddled. So I use bullet points because they keep me on track.
So real quick, I think that we should announce next week's film, and then if anyone we could stick around for a couple seconds after to answer questions, but just so if anybody has to go, they know what's up next week. This is Alexie's pick. I did do it. I did it.
You want to say it?
Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise next week. Thelma and Louise.
But heads up, inciting incident is very intense. So if you probably don't watch it with kids or extra young screenwriters.
A little disclaimer here.
Yeah, you gotta keep an eye out. I got everyone's back. It's intense. So read that IMDb parents guide. Make sure
fun fact: this is Brad Pitt's first movie ever.
Brad Pitt's first movie, and I'll have some stories to tell because Callie Curry, who wrote it and won an Oscar for it, I worked with quite extensively, and funny. She's great, and we had a great time working together. We actually it was a race car film, so we traveled all over the United States together, going to races. Was that Richard Petty? Yeah, she was set to direct it. She was supposed to direct it, and then we couldn't get it made. But full circle. But Callie and I Anyway, I'll tell stories next week. Whatever, if we have time.
I have oops, I accidentally undid. What have I done? Okay. Yeah. I've read a lot of IMDb trivia about Thelma and Louise, so I can drop some facts when the time comes.
Okay. Thank you all. Buy me a coffee. And Alexie always laughs when I say that. I don't know what she It's going to take me a while to get over the fact that you cried when I sent an email. That's kind of, I didn't know that. I learned something new.
I'll explain it to you one day.
But it was a good cry. It was a good cry.
It was a good cry. I was a sad 18-year-old child who had just escaped Kentucky, and you said that my writing didn't suck, and I thought everyone was going to think I was a hick.
By the way, just for clarification, that wasn't my email. Your writing doesn't suck.
No. That's what I got out of it.
Hi, Alexie. This is Professor Warren. Your writing doesn't suck. Thank you. See you next week. That wasn't my email, was it?
No, I don't think so. I think that's how I read it, though. I think it was like you didn't get in by mistake.
No, you definitely didn't get in by mistake. Thank you, guys. This was fun.
Yeah, we could. John, are you able to? Should we answer a couple more questions if anyone wants to stick around, or what should we be done?
Yeah, one or two. Yeah, and then I'm going to jump.
Okay.
You picked them, Alexie.
I saw one that I liked, and that's why I did it. Can you please share your thoughts on synopsis and treatments? Is it before the screenplay, after, during the outline, simultaneously? What's up with that?
What's up with that?
Mm-hmm.
So treatments and synopsis. Treatments are really tricky because they are very, very difficult to write. Because what you have to do, you have to do a couple things in a treatment. First, you have to tell a story, obviously. Secondly, in a good treatment, you capture the tone of the movie. And you do that all in about 4, 6, maybe not 10 pages. You do it. So the fact that it's so short and so concise is what makes it so demanding. Now, and traditionally, or people think that a treatment is a way to sell a project. Keep in mind that nobody can, after you've written a script, and the script's either has gotten the attention of a studio network or an agent, a manager, or whatever, and they know you can put it on the page, then you would send a treatment about another story, and they'd say, wow, I love this, and I read a script, so I know he or she can write. But please don't be mistaken to think that you can write a treatment without having gotten the attention of people by virtue of a script. Because a treatment alone, they can't buy if they don't know that you can actually finish a script. And that's the qualifier for everything is that first script, that second script, third script, whatever, that script that is a home run, and they go, wow, I see you can write. And then typically what will happen is they'll say, come in for a meeting and pitch us an idea. So treatments are, for some reason, are talked about. I understand, but they're not. They're only done after you've already created a script, and again, frequently what happens is at that point you're invited into the room as opposed to sending the treatment. So I'm a little skeptical about writing treatments. So
just from my most recent experience with treatments, the only time I've really been asked to do it is if we're pretending that I haven't already written the script, or if I wrote a spec, internet, which I wrote in your class, John. And we used that recently as a spec to apply to an open writing assignment, which Schaller named Nameless. And then now we've been chatting a bit, and I'm kind of pitching my take on what they're doing. And we're to the stage where they want to see a treatment of like how I would, how I'd run with it.
But you got into the room based on the script.
Yeah, it was completely internet. And then now we have nothing to do with that. That was not related whatsoever. And So now I just wrote them a treatment with my take. After doing a pitch, I did a pitch on my take, and then they say, okay, we're interested. Here's some notes. We want more now. So then just sent in a treatment.
Yeah. And that's kind of a more typical.
Yeah. It was fun though.
All right.
Hard, but they're hard to write, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I love it.
You love to write. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't feel like it was super.
I think for in terms of the question though, if you have to write a treatment, you wouldn't need to know how or what process. Like you would already be far enough along in your career to know how to do it and to represent your script well enough. That's my opinion.
The only time I've ever written a treatment for a script that was already written was Monica. No, I hadn't worked with them before. That was for an open writing assignment. The only time I've ever written a treatment for a script that existed was when it was internet. And it was because we wanted to, for animation stuff, they don't tend to want to buy a $100,000 movie from a new writer. So we were kind of starting it over. Like I do have it, but we were like pitching the concept and then pitching the treatment and sort of going about it that way because, with animations, they want to develop it with you. So we were sort of being like, look, this is what it could be, and not saying that it was done. So
yeah.
I don't know if that's conventional, but that's what we did. So
okay, I'm gonna jump, but thank you all. This was really fun. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown of Little Miss Sunshine, and I'm looking forward to Thelma and Louise. And have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you. You guys gonna stick around a little bit?
I think, unless
we'll talk, I guess.
We'll talk over the weekend.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.